Hey guys, what is up? This is Dave from the SEGA Saturn SHIRO podcast, and today I wanted to talk about a game that is near and dear to my heart. It is incredibly special to me, and I can't overstate how important this game is when it comes to me being a SEGA Saturn fan and me being involved in the SEGA Saturn community, because it really was this game that set me on my path. Nights into Dreams, you guys. As cliche as that might sound, because I know this game is incredibly important to a lot of people. For me, the story starts in the Christmas of 1996, when my little brother and we went down to the mall, to Electronics Boutique, to play a machine that had just come out. That was the Ultra 64. The game machine that had been hyped over 2 or 3 years in the press. Something we were really waiting for. Now, I was a Nintendo fanboy at the time, and I had my Super Nintendo, and I was holding on to it with games like Star Fox and Donkey Kong Country that kept it on life support. But I was very excited and optimistic about the future of games and the next generation, which we kept hearing that term, the next generation, bandied about. And so my brother and I, we went down to check this thing out, and we were standing in what must have been about a line of 20 kids waiting to play this kiosk at the front of the store. And each kid got about 5 to 10 minutes on the thing, so needless to say, it was a long wait. And so while we were standing in line, we were talking about, the next generation. We were talking about the games that were out, schoolyard talk, that kind of thing, and my dad had just recently picked up a PlayStation, so I thought that was cool. I was about 15 at the time. So to me, it seemed kind of like an adult console, and I was very much had my Nintendo blinders on. So I kind of wanted to wait and see, before I made any judgments on the PlayStation. But, while I'm waiting in this line, out of the corner of my eye, I see on a tiny little CRT behind a glass display case, unceremoniously, without any kind of attention being paid to it, this game, Nights into Dreams. And I see Knights, the purple jester, flying around in fluid 3D motion in the Mystic Forest, I think it was. It was like the dark forest level. And it blew my mind. And that's a cliche statement, but it really blew my mind. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before in a video game. Just the colors, the lush 3D graphics, the way that they had blended sprites, 2D sprites with 3D. It was surreal. It was psychedelic. It was, just the fluid motion and frame rate of it all. The whole thing just mesmerized me. And I looked at it, and the thing that I noticed the most, the thing that stood out to me the most, was that nobody else was paying it any attention. All the other kids were just so set on the Nintendo 64, they didn't even bother to look at this game, this really amazing game going on the sidelines here. And I asked the store clerk if I could play it, and he said, "Sure, kid, nobody wants to play this game, but go ahead." That was his attitude, And I played it, and it just completely blew me away. And it was at that moment that I decided that, all hype aside, and Nintendo being what it is, this is something I want to investigate. This is something I want to pursue, I need to have this game. I need to get it home. I need to be able to play it. And that means that I got to have this console, the Sega Saturn. Because it was at that moment that I kind of put 2 and 2 together and realized that, okay, this thing's running on the Saturn. A console that up until this point I'd completely ignored. And part of that is just because Sega did such a terrible job marketing the Saturn in the West, and they really didn't do much to garner my attention as a Nintendo fanboy, away from Nintendo or away from the Super Nintendo, So, I made it my mission, I made it my goal to get this game and to go down that, at the time, I guess, lonely path of being a Sega Saturn fan in the mid-90s. All my friends, they waited in the lines. They picked up the Nintendo 64. They had their, sleepover parties with their split-screen, GoldenEye. I got invited to those things, and it was fun. The Nintendo 64, as much as I give it a hard time, there were some fun games to be had on that thing. But it didn't have that intangible quality that a lot of Sega games have. For me, it's just that, the fact that the games are so lovingly crafted and that they're so different, So I wanted to get into a little bit. That's enough of me talking and, burning your guys' ears. I'm going to get into some gameplay here just to show you a little bit of what the game is like. I'm sure that you guys have seen it in action. It's a by now, I mean, most people have experienced it either in like the HD remakes that they've done or on the PlayStation 2. Now, I personally prefer the original Saturn version. I don't know if it just has a texture, a quality to it. I think that the HD remakes, I think that they kind of did away with a lot of the sprite graphics and they converted them into like all 3D graphics. And I really prefer that look of the 2D sprites mixed with the 3D graphics. So, that's just why I prefer to play this. And I mean, it's original hardware, so why not, right? So, we got our 20 chips, we knock down the idea capture, and then we come through here, and we're just gonna grab bonuses, basically. That's what we're doing now. We're just kind of trying to get some bonuses, and the beauty of this game is in the simplicity. That this is very much an arcade score attack game, where your whole goal is just to better yourself, is just to get better, to attack the course and get better times. And, so infinite replayability, basically. One of those games you can drag out any time of the year and just have a few goes on it, and you can get real deep into it, like, Peter Malick or Knights Charlie or Morgan Patrick. These people who, they're like Rocky Balboa of Knights, they just really get into that score attacking. Now then there's people like me who are a little bit more casual fans in terms of the score attack. I mean, I'm an uber fan when it comes to the game itself. I love it. But the wonderful thing about this game is that it means a lot to a lot of people, and it's not one that you necessarily have to... I mean, you could love it for the music, or you could love it for the graphics, or you could love it just for the idea, the story behind it. The fact that these kids are kind of caught up in a dream world where they have had their character attributes stolen from them and they have to fight to get them back, And you've got this jester, I guess, who's kind of their savior, Knights. There's so many things about this game. The fact that when I say lovingly crafted, I'm talking about the fact that Yuji Naka and his team, and I know it wasn't just Yuji Naka. Was it Naoshia? Hold on a second. I gotta get that. There were Sonic Team, the entire Sonic team. They went to great lengths to make this game special, like by designing the A-Life system, So let's go here. Oh. Yeah, so, I'm not a pro at this game by any means, but I do enjoy the hell out of it. There's nothing up there. Right. You will notice I get pretty quiet when playing this game, though, because it does require quite a bit of concentration to do, half decent at. And I'm also playing on a capture device that's kind of laggy, to be honest, so that's something. But I can still kind of give you guys the gist. All right, let's come over here. Wipe out this guy. Oh, you know what? It occurs to me that there's that guy right there I gotta get. I've never been very good with those ribbons, you know, like I try to do the acrobatics, but it's kind of difficult to pull them off. I mean, for me at least. And I don't spam the ceilings and walls. I don't typically do that because it's kind of a glitch. I know that I know you can do it, but I don't typically do that. I got 4. That's typical for me. Let's go back through one more time. I'm not actually sure. I may not have enough time to get back through, so I'm just gonna book it back to the palace because I do not want to. If you run out of time, then you get in trouble. You lose everything. Knock that down. Come down here, try to avoid those, and of course, those guys, they pull on your toes and they pull you down. They get me every time. It's okay, that's what practicing is for, I guess. Ooh, these ones are tough. There you go, come on. There we go. Not great, but good enough. Good enough to show you guys, you know, what you can do in this game, basically. Just flying with knights is fun, you know, using the dash and just flying all around. It's awesome. It's such a great feeling of it's one of the only games that I know of that actually does capture that feeling of flight so well, you know. And you know, there's just not enough good things that I can say about this game. I feel like everybody needs to play it, even if it's not your thing. Even if you decide that it's not for you, you know, I feel like everybody should play it and experience it and go into it with that expectation of it being an arcade score attack game instead of thinking that it's a platformer. You know, don't compare it to Mario 64 like we did back in the day. That's just not fair to Mario 64 or to this game. You know, they're both great games and they exist, you know, individually and separate of each other. So anyway, this has been Dave from Sega Saturn SHIRO, reminding you that you must play your Sega Saturn. Go check out our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/playSegaSaturn. Check us out on YouTube. Search Sega Saturn SHIRO to find all of our videos and podcasts and live streams. And go play your Sega Saturns and have some fun, guys. Check out this game, Nights into Dreams. Until next time, this has been Dave, signing off.